Ready. Actually, let me pull up one thing really quick. At least notes here to make my life easier. All right, man. Go for it. Holy crap, it's 3:07. I'm Ron Burgundy. Thank you, Justin, for your help. Sorry, guys, we're starting out just a little bit late. We had some technical difficulties. Get into our linking the stream to our Facebook group. So, hope everyone's doing well on this Friday. Is it the 17th? Halfway through the month? Still looking for that, Justin, by the way. I haven't seen it. There it is. There it is. Can you just let me know if anything comes up? Just help monitor the chat a little bit. And we'll go ahead and get started to give some people some time to hop in. Also, Justin, do you want to just do a really quick just ping that, hey, started a little bit late, but we're here. Hop in if you guys can. Something like that. All right. I never know if you edit the beginning of this. Like, if I just meander, does it get edited out, or does it does it not? Who knows? I just never know. Just never know. Try to watch as much as I can, but it's like on double speed, right? So, perfect. Well, hey, in the interim, I guess we can go ahead and get started here. I know we've had at least one person hop in and join us, so let's do that. Perfect. So, first off, appreciate you guys as usual. Thanks for joining. We can get in here. So, lots to talk about. It'll probably take about 30, 40 minutes to get through. So hopefully you get some nice listening while you guys are driving maybe from one job to another, right? So first things first, want to just do a couple of things for you all. First thing, if anyone's interested in improving their customer retention efforts, we talked about this last April. We did a show, I think it was at the very end of March or early April, with Responsibid, myself and our sales director, Zach. And we just kind of looked at client retention, why it's important, and what you can do to kind of improve that, whether that's using ServiceMonster, whether it's using other tools, but kind of just getting in that mindset for retention and why it's so important. So some of you guys are interested in looking. Justin will post a link to that Facebook event. You guys can watch and hopefully get some good info from that. The other thing is, want to just talk about our ServiceMonster Sites program again. Professional built websites. It's a partner we work directly with. It's integrated directly into ServiceMonster. So if you're someone who's looking for a new website or looking to update your current website and don't necessarily know where to go for that, reach out to us. Let us know about that. We also have a link that you guys can go to get a demo of that platform, and Justin will also share that. But it's not just websites either. It also helps with your Google Business Profile and local SEO as well. So yeah, if you guys, that's something that interests you, even if you just want to kind of have just a quick look at it or have a call with someone just to see what it's like, take a look at that link. So both of those links will be useful. And if for some reason you can't find them, Justin, just let me know because I've got them. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So the big thing we want to talk about is kind of what's going on ServiceMonster wise, what's coming down the pipe, so to speak, in the Mario world. So first and foremost, we have a mobile release, and it's a big one. Actually, it's we're going to bump up to version 1.5. It's going to be 1.5.0, and there's some things you guys probably won't necessarily care about, but basically we updated our framework. So we're built on React Native, and so we did a major upgrade there. And so again, for your guys' perspective, it's really going to help with performance. It also left us with some new packages we had to work with, and so basically it just helps keep the app stable and get this onto some modern things there. So that's kind of the big thing. So, but I would just look at improved app performance as far as what you guys really care about there. We also fixed a ton of bugs, and so the big reason why we wanted to make this step is that there were some bugs that were just ongoing, and the reason they were ongoing is because the packages were essentially being deprecated, and so some of the things we couldn't even fix necessarily without this major update. So that was one of the things. We have a ton of fixes. One that was mentioned specifically in SMUG is that the annoying visual issue where you don't see the arrows to navigate forward and backward the month view. That's fixed. We fixed the crash that occurs on login for those who are using both the Pixel 8 or the S24 devices. That's a huge one. I know we have a workaround for you guys, but that's big. We also did a couple of new things. We expanded the error messaging for failed payments. So right now it just says that the payment failed. We're now actually it's cleaner UI, and we're also giving you more info about what the error is, so you can better understand why the payment failed. So if it's something that can be resolved while you're there on site, or if it's something that's a problem on a larger scale, right? So we also updated the note fields. Now, currently it opens up and you can just edit directly on the page. Then you have to make sure that you tap the save button before you navigate around. And the way that we have the UI built is causing some issues. In fact, there's a couple of different issues that it's causing. One is if you're scrolling around the page and you haven't saved yet, it can cause a lot of weirdness. It can also just lead to saving issues as a whole if you don't realize that the message has been saved while you're continuing working on the page. So what we did was we made the edit note a much more, visible action where it's opening up a full page. So you can also see all the notes at once instead of having to scroll, be able to edit those and close them. And so you'll know when it's actually saved and you won't have those scrolling issues. So with the update, we also made a few slight changes to the date and time pickers. On the iOS front, it'll be very similar to what you guys use currently. On the Android side, it's been modified to be kind of like a newer UI. So it uses kind of like a Rolodex, kind of like the iOS side does. So there are changes there. And there are so many bug fixes in here. I don't know which one I should focus on. I think the main thing is just that a ton of stability changes, a ton of just crash fixes, a ton of things tied to the service items. So if you're someone who uses service items heavily, there were some things that were bugged there in terms of you couldn't upload images to the service item. The search functionality wouldn't let you select an item if you search for it. So just little usability things like that have been fixed. And there's a ton more. So I would kind of just recommend looking at our release notes when those are live. The release itself is going to start being rolled out next week. It's going to be a staged rollout, which means it's going to pretty much go into the end of the month. We're just going to roll it out in phases to a select group of people. Basically, the way it works is you release it to X amount of people each day. And just kind of like it continues to kind of build on that. So I don't know when exactly you personally, if you're listening to this, will get that, but it'll be rolled out over through the end of the month. So it's kind of, to be on the lookout. It's the 150 release. So it also does some great things for us. Like I said, it gets us on the up-to-date React Native. And so that means that we can do newer, cooler things, which is great. It also lays the groundwork for ServiceMonster Pay, which I'll get into here in just a second. So the upgraded ServiceMonster Pay, this lays the groundwork for all the elements that are in the mobile app side. So when that launches in June, these are those changes. So we're excited, though. We're excited to get this out. We're excited what's going to come, and there's going to be some big things coming rapidly. Our mobile team's expanded, and we're churning through work. So be on the lookout for some really exciting things over the summer. Web. Let's talk ServiceMonster 6. So we have the 6.8.0 release, which will begin live at the end of the month. That we actually have 5/28, which is the last Tuesday of the month after Memorial Day. That's when we're targeting release. There are a ton of things in here. This is kind of our last final catch-up release after the big 6.7 release that had FMS and all those other cool tools that you guys have been using. This is kind of everything else that have been slightly bottlenecked by that release, and kind of just getting some major bug fixes out, getting some small feature sets that are out, getting some things behind the scenes that are just kind of improving our infrastructure and security and things like that. There's a bunch of stuff on that front that you guys don't really care, other than the fact that it's just improvements, right? We've also made some updates to the contracts sections, so both on the account itself and in the actual contract section, so you guys can view more information and kind of customize those. And just a whole lot of bug fixes. Trying to think what else in here. It also lays the groundwork for ServiceMonster Pay. So there's a ton of new and exciting things, both from a UI perspective and just from just the core functionality of both ACH and credit card payments that'll be coming with that. Reminder, this does not open this up. We are in beta right now for our for a handful of our users. And so if any of you guys are listening, thank you again for that, for helping us test that and make sure this is buttery smooth for everyone else when this rolls out. But this lays the groundwork for kind of those final UI elements and such that'll be live and before the big announcement, which will be in June, which is when ServiceMonster Pay will start to be available. So that's exciting. I'm looking in here. I don't know if there's any bugs anyone in particular wants to look at, but there are some things on the SynGym front that have been fixed. There are a bunch of things tied to just kind of some usability for creating new campaigns, especially those making advanced campaigns. There's a couple of fixes there. That's a great question, Paul. The answer is it depends. We'll have to take a look at that and sort of how many cards might be needed to do that, and kind of do a once off and talk with PaySafe and see how the process will work. So right out of the gate, it won't be like you flip a switch. But if you want to reach out and talk to our support team about that, we can start to kind of plan for that. Right at launch, it's US only. We're working to get the Canadian functionality in, so I think you'll have a couple of weeks as well before that's fully up and running. But I will I'll make a note. If you just want to reach out to our support team and just say attention, Adam and support. I had this question that came up on Ask Live, and we'll get back to you either later today or on Monday, Paul. But great question. The goal is that we make it as smooth as possible for those who use the previous iteration, but there's just some steps you have to go through, and it takes a little bit of time. So yeah. What's coming next is twofold. So right now we have the big launch that's coming for SM Pay. We are also working in parallel with this launch on a card reader device. And so the next big thing is that we will have a follow-up launch. So once everyone kind of gets into the new platform, can have the faster response time for settlement and all the new UI features we have for both mobile and desktop on that. We're also going to introduce a card reader option. So we don't have a set date yet for that. Just know that it's coming and that we're excited to get that out. We're also we've started work on some of the communications items that we talked about. So just kind of, over the next couple of months, just kind of keep listening for that, and we'll dive deeper into that as we get further and further into the prototype that we've been building. But there's some big communication tools coming down the pipeline when it comes to SMS. So it's another thing to be excited for as we kind of work through the summer. Just kind of keep coming back, keep listening, and you'll be hearing those updates. So, yeah, I think everything else, I'll just say, guys, look at the release notes. Like I said, there's a ton of bug fixes. I don't think any of them are worth kind of necessarily taking up more airtime talking about them. But our goal is that we are greatly improving that process, and you guys are running into less and less bugs over time. We've already set it in some things already on our QA side to include more automation, and we're rapidly expanding that. So not only will our great QA team continue helping us make sure on the manual testing side, but we've, like I said, greatly expanded kind of our umbrella of automation tests, and that'll continue to expand over the coming months and years. So excited for all of that. Let's jump into some SMUG posts. There were some good ones this month. In fact, there are a couple that I wanted to talk about that I didn't even have room for. So if I do end up having time, I might jump into those. But for now, there was one that came in just the other day from Mark, and I wanted to shine a light on this because Pete, if you're listening, you're always great. You're one of our VIPs. Mark asked just, hey, do any of you guys do soft washing? He's like, I'm interested in starting up another business using that process and would like some information on it. And Pete volunteered. And this is one of the things that I will always shine a light on. This is one of the benefits of SMUG, guys. You guys have lots of Facebook groups with lots of very, talented and intelligent business owners. This is one of those areas where if you have kind of, looking for business advice or things like that, this is a great pool of people to draw that information from who have been through it and can give you advice. And so always appreciate both those willing to give the advice and those that are brave enough to ask for it. So hope that Pete got those answers for you, Mark, and congratulations on if you do go down that path. Hope the business goes well for you. This one came from Paul, so he's listening, so he gets to hear this. Paul had a great question talking about recurring jobs. So right now in the system, you can do an annual reminder, but you can't go beyond 1 year. And so he asked, hey, is there any way to set this up so I can do this every 2 or 3 years? I've got some that I only service in that time frame. So I want to be able to have those reminders so I don't forget. And the reason we haven't done this previously is it can lead to problems if you don't kind of protect you guys from yourselves, I guess is a really bad way of saying it. But the system itself is constantly looking at what falls into its time range as far as the automated process that runs nightly. And so if you set that too far out, it's going to start looking for more and more things, and it can slow that down for very minimal gain. So what we kind of, I think, landed on with some back and forth, and appreciate everyone, Joseph, Paul, Matt, you guys all had great input in here. What we're going to do is allow the option itself. So when you guys create the recurring appointments, you can still set those timeframes, but we only actually still look at the upcoming 12-month period. So it's hypothetically there 5 years from now. It won't actually appear on your schedule until you're in that last 12 months, right? And so, for example, right now in 2024, if you've got one 5 years from now, it shows up in 2029, it would not appear until May of 2028 on the schedule. And that just helps keeps things clean. It helps keeps things. Also, the other part of it is that it also makes sure that you guys don't set that appointment date too far in advance. We have a couple of things that can help with that. But basically, if you take those recurrences and you turn them into hard appointments and you lock them in as a work order, if you go back and then change that recurrence, it's not going to update those. So basically, we want to make sure that you guys are updating the recurrences before it gets to that point, right? So I'm kind of getting into the weeds here. I just really wanted to kind of appreciate you guys bringing it up and why we hadn't done that before. And I think we landed at a good solution. So we'll be looking at adding that in later this summer as well. This is another exciting one. We're actually currently working on this. I've had numerous, especially over the last 12 months, we've had a lot of requests on the mobile app to have it be translatable to Spanish. And there was a recent post from Justin who asked, hey, is there anything in the works for Spanish translation? And I told him I would circle back next week. Well, this is me circling back, Justin. I'll ping you in the channel to let you know this is happening. We have been able to set a little bit of time aside to translate this. So what we're going to do, currently the app itself is hard-coded in English. Ideally, if we could go back, and when we actually did this development, we would have probably handled that differently. So you can kind of tie into universal translation, so to speak, where it can feed off of the OS. But since what's the saying? The best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. Second best time is now, right? And so we're going to do Spanish is by far the most requested. So we're going to add a hard-coded Spanish version, and then I have a few users that I've requested to help us kind of beta test that to make sure all the translation works as we expect it to. Everything's translated well, et cetera, formatting issues, things like that, right? So it's in the works. Probably going to take a few weeks to get that completely ironed out, but that will be in the 1.5.1 release. So that'll be just a little bit later here in the summer, and we'll have that rolled out. So excited for that. Like I said, it's been pretty heavily requested. So there's another great thread that started by Matt, and I didn't have room in here. There are a bunch of replies in this one. But they're asking about the average ticket. So just your average invoice, right? And have that be a normal reporting metric. And we do show it in multiple areas. But the consensus I got from the conversation with everyone, and again, thank you guys for that input. The consensus I got was that essentially it's there, especially on the mobile app. It's incredibly present, but it's not as easy to find in certain areas when you're on the web on ServiceMonster 6. And so I think it's mostly just like, hey, we have the data. You can show the data in multiple ways, whether it's reports, whether it's a custom listing build and pull it under Excel, whether it's a dashboard, whatever. We seem to make it a little bit more accessible, I think, and find some easier things where you guys can do, particularly on our dashboard screen. So that's kind of what I got. It's an important metric, something you guys want to keep track of, and also not just you guys want to look at trends as well, right? You want to compare year over year. You want to compare, quarter over quarter. You might even want to look back, 3-5 years, right? Depending on what that is. So ways you can easily swap between those and compare, kind of seeing what that trend looks like. So I hear you. We'll see what we can find to make it a little bit easier on you. And again, I just really appreciated the discussion that kind of had. So with that said, those are the big SMUG posts I wanted to go over. And if anyone else is in chat and has questions, go ahead and throw them in now. We were going to go over a feature this week, and I kind of like dilly-dallied on it. And while I'm sitting here, I think I'm just going to go for it. So I'm going to talk about one quick thing, and that is, I'll find the share button here. Inside ServiceMonster, I want to just be very, very clear that if you are running marketing templates, email templates, etc., and you want to do something kind of special tied to pets or another custom field that might be useful for you guys, there are two things I want to draw attention to. One is on the account, there's the account profile. And in that profile, it's this third tab over, there are custom fields. So I've got things like, these are just examples I've made over the years when I've been demoing this to people. But I've got pets, I've got certain subdivision, I've got preferred technician, I've got carpet type, I've got on-site water connection was one I was dealing with an installer, window count, etc. You can see this. I can customize these to be built however I want. So I can manage custom fields, and I can say, hey, I want to make a new one, and I can determine what type of field it is. Is it a drop-down list where it has specific responses? Is it a date field? Is it just a free-form field? Or is it just a yes or no? Or is it just a checkbox? And these allow you to do is take more detailed information. You do not have to do any of this, but if there's anything you feel like could give you a big kind of thumbs up for larger things, and the one that I always focus on is pets, especially for obviously the interior cleaners. For exterior, it'd probably be something, whatever leads to increased work. So I don't know if it's like a moldy kind of thing, an algae kind of thing. I don't know, whatever that might be, a siding type. Anywho, with pets especially, if you have certain clients and you kind of teach it either in yourself or in your technicians, that when it makes sense to just kind of learn the pet names, right? Just have that little bit of extra customer service bit. So like you're cleaning around, you know that there's Garfield the cat and that there's Odie the dog, right? This is not something, again, you will ever get 100%. People aren't going to necessarily want to talk about it. There'll be situations where maybe it's not worth the effort. But just one of those things, if you do collect that information, I'm just going to put in here Garfield. If you then make a template and you customize that template, whether it's a direct email or it's a marketing template, I'll just grab one of these generic emails that I have. If you're in there, if you want to grab a merge field in here, in the account section, all of those custom fields exist in here. So if I go in here and I look for pets, over here it just says custom field 2. That's just how the system recognizes it. But in the list, it tells you what the name of the item is. If I then make a marketing campaign that just says, hey, if custom field 2 or the pet field has data in it, then I want to send this to that person. And then what you can do, so I'll just save this. I'll go back to that account. Oh, if you guys didn't know this, recent activities up here. Another little cool trick. I'll go back to that account and I will go and I'll just pretend like I'm sending myself an email. And I will load that generic email template. I've got that custom field. If I preview this, did I not save it? I didn't save it. That's why. Save it. There we go. Okay. Now I go back, send email, load template, preview this. It pulls in that name. So what you can do, instead of saying Dear Adam, let's just move this. Start it off like this. Preview this. So what if you were sending an entire template to the pet? What if you were, customizing the language like, hey, Dear Garfield, so glad we could get out there that last time and clean up that mess before John realized, John Arbuckle, for those not familiar with the show. And you could cater the entire email like you were talking to the pet. Now, for me personally, I'm certified cat dad. My cat was actually just sitting here. I'd show her off, but she went off. If I got something like that from any service provider that I worked with, they would be someone I'd work with for life. Because they took a little bit of time to learn just a little bit more about me. They learned something that's important to me. And from a carpet cleaner or just interior cleaner, floor cleaner overall, pets make messes. They're typically going to be a higher value client for you just because you're going to go out there more often, right? So you can focus on them, you can target on them, you can kind of turn this into maybe a VIP list of the data that you have, and then you can maybe hit them up with a specific pet-focused email, whether that's a 3-month, a 6-month, a 9-month, whatever, and just put that into your regular cadence and just have like a unique thing there. So anyways, something cool that it's something that I've showed a lot of users, and every time I show it, you can kind of see the excitement and light bulbs that kind of go off. And so just kind of want to throw it out there. Anyone who's listening and watching, it can be a great item. It doesn't have to be pets either. There might be other things you guys can use those custom fields for. Now, the one thing I will tell you, those custom fields in the mobile app can only be edited if you're a certain security role or higher. And I believe it's Technician Plus is the ones who can actually go in and edit that. So this is something to keep in mind. If you do go down that route, you might need to give them a slightly higher security role in order to edit that. Most of you guys are running either Technician or Technician Plus already, from what I've seen. So just kind of throwing it out there. Anyone who's above that can also edit those as well. So boom. I didn't see any more questions come in, so I'm going to leave it that everyone's kind of said their piece. Appreciate all of you guys. We've got exciting things coming out. Like I said, at the end of this month, we've got mobile release rolling out 1.5. We've got the 6.8 web app the week after that, right at the end of the month. And then we've got SMPay coming, the new version of SMPay coming here in June. So we're excited for all of that. And we're not done. There's really, like, I know I've said it in the last couple of months, but there's big things coming. We've made some drastic changes kind of with how the internal processes we do for a lot of things. We've expanded our team. We've got a lot of things coming, and we're excited to get those things out to you guys, and we're excited to make sure that we're offering new things that you guys really want and need. So be on the lookout for some things on that, some additional info in SMUG, and so on and so forth. And as always, I appreciate everyone. I hope you have a great Friday, a great weekend, and a great rest of your May. Until next time, we'll see you then.